Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another video where today I'm joined by my good friend and podcast co-host, Mr. Penguin Poppins.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And if you guys probably do not know, but Mr. Penguin Poppins is in fact a marketing expert, and his whole career is devoted to marketing. And that is why, and through little conversations we've had, I thought it'd be good to actually bring him onto a video and discuss what the current marketing has been like for the Lord of the Rings show, and how it's like going forward, and how just in general how the marketing has been. So as I just said, Mr. Penguin is quite, of course, he isn't the marketing genius of like a Lord of the Rings show admin, but he is pretty good at what he does. So it's great to have his analysis and advice today. So how does that sound, Penguin?
That sounds good. I think you oversold me a little bit. I'm
Yeah.
not asking you to be a reference for a job application, but I work in marketing. I do it for software companies rather than entertainment media. But by and large, there's some principles, and while the execution is different across industries, it still comes down to raising awareness and getting people interested in your product and getting them to eventually buy it. So whether that's in the form of purchasing a ticket or downloading a trial, you want to raise awareness and hype and get people there.
But despite that, we can in some way discuss how it's been like so far for Amazon and the Lord of the Rings show. So do you want to take it away and have your initial thoughts about it, etc.?
Okay. Well, from the conversations we've had, both internally and on the podcast, as well as conversations that we've seen on the subreddit where I spend most of my time discussing Lord of the Rings, there's a lot of people kind of wondering, well, when are we going to get a trailer? What's going on with Amazon? We don't know anything. We need to know something. And in that silence comes people making up their own news. So, for example, we've got the nudity controversy. We've got a lot of people going crazy about the apparent casting of people of color, and what does that mean? And people going crazy, assuming the worst. And my reaction is, hey guys, let's not complain about how Amazon is doing this when we don't know what Amazon is doing. But stepping back broadly, let's just talk about marketing for entertainment in general. So generally, the marketing and promotion cycle for a blockbuster production, and by this I mean for an original property. By that I don't mean a sequel or a continuation of any sort of greater saga, takes about a year to a year and a half. What's going on is that the studio is trying to slowly generate and maintain enthusiasm for its production, timing its rise so that this movie is released right when hype and anticipation is at its peak. And to give you an example of how that is so hard to maintain, just look at what COVID has done to the cycle. I mean, there were supposed to be so many big blockbuster movies that were supposed to be released over 2020 in theater that have since been delayed. And as part of that delay, personally, I've kind of forgotten about them. We were supposed to have a long-awaited sequel to Top Gun. 40 years after the original, there is going to be a new Bond movie. Wonder
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. This time last year, I was kind of interested in seeing Top Gun. I was interested in Bond. I saw that trailer where there's some crazy motorcycle stunt. I was interested in seeing how they're going to do the follow-up to Wonder Woman. Then I kind of forgot about it. And when I saw that, I think was Wonder Woman released? Was that on HBO? Or was it a different platform?
I believe it was HBO Max. I believe that it was all the movies are released on or are going to be.
Okay. So when it was released on HBO Max, when I saw that announcement, I thought, oh, yeah, that's right. Wonder Woman was a thing. I mean, I'd kind of forgotten about it. The hype and anticipation, in my case, had subsided. I'm not a diehard Wonder Woman fan. I'm not a diehard Bond fan. I mean, I enjoy them for what they are. Top Gun is one of those movies that is endlessly that I try to quote here and there whenever appropriate. But I was more interested in seeing, okay, what are they doing? This is nearly 40 years after the original, but again, Now, in the case of a streaming show, the marketing cycle is generally much shorter. It's usually about 6 months or less. But I'd say very few shows are on the scale of what Amazon is trying to do here. And I don't think you can really find a comparison anywhere. I mean, late Game of Thrones certainly
Yeah.
approached this level that Amazon is striving for, but that was after Game of Thrones had become a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah,
So you really go ahead.
I want to say that as I believe moving forward now, that I don't think we have like genres for TV shows like fantasy and just like comedy, etc. But I believe there should be like a new one comes to for like we have like movies, then blockbuster, big budgeted movies, that we should have shows that we have the big budgeted shows, and just basically the big franchise shows that I believe that I think the Lord of the Rings show might fall under that category. Maybe some of the future Star Wars shows, maybe the new Game of Thrones show. So they're kind of creating their own genre in many ways and creating these big blockbuster shows that we're getting now. But yeah, continue.
Well, I would say as far as the genre goes, and Hin would hear this and nod in approval. And I think that when you do something like Lord of the Rings, what you need to strive for is some kind of historical epic. But that's another thing. I'm less concerned about genres and more concerned about, okay, this is all about an attention for eyeballs, because the streaming space is getting very crowded. It makes me think of the .com bubble where everyone was vying for a piece of that market, and it was so intense because the stakes were so high. As we can see now, 20 years later, it turned into a winner-take-all situation with Google commanding search, Amazon commanding e-commerce, and now this was a few years later, but Facebook dominating the social media landscape. So I think that's part of the reason why Amazon is going all in on the scale of this production. Now we've got, but the interesting thing is we have another fantasy epic to compare this to. Amazon is also producing Wheel of Time. And I've never read Wheel of Time. It's probably unique among the podcast members in that I am not a huge fan of fantasy in general. One of the reasons what really attracts me to Lord of the Rings is the sense of history that goes into everything. A lot of fantasies just feel like this exists, but there's no rhyme or reason for why the world is. But that's neither here nor there. But and so on the Lord of the Rings subreddit, they compare, well, Wheel of Time is revealing all this information. It feels really weird watching this, seeing Wheel of Time be so forthcoming with details and casting, whereas Amazon isn't sharing anything about Lord of the Rings. My personal reaction to that is, well, Wheel of Time has been in development for longer. Secondly, Wheel of Time has a known actual narrative you have to adapt. When we go in to watch Amazon, we're going to not only learn how they're doing this, we're going to learn what they're doing. What are they adapting? Because they get to invent so much of it. In the case of Wheel of Time, we know what they have to do. We know that certain characters have to go here, talk to this person, go somewhere else. So the interest is in how they're doing that. So when you see the casting, you can kind of match that up to descriptions in the book and easily figure out who that person's going to be. And from what I understand, there has been a little bit of controversy over casting, but that happens anywhere. Let's see. It's kind of reviewing my notes a little bit. So in Lord of the Rings, this hasn't been in development as long. And even if it has, they still have far more work to do because they have to invent so much. They have to, we know when the rings were forged. We know when when Sauron attacked and when he sacked Eregion and so forth. But we don't know any of the details between that. We don't know about the what negotiations, if any, went on between the elves and Sauron before he fought them to try to recover those rings. So Amazon can invent all that. We don't know how many minor characters they had, and we're going to have to invent them. Personally, I'd love to see something like a bunch of other named invented ringsmiths, some of who go crazy because they were bearing minor rings of power when Sauron forged the one, I'm sure most of them will be killed by Sauron. Maybe some of them will survive and only die later in the show. Or maybe they don't die, maybe they just depart to the Havens. But long story short, Amazon has a lot that they can invent here, so why not keep it secretive and reveal it and let people see it when they first watch the show?
Yeah, and you
So,
clarified that quite well. But going into this video, I know probably in the comment sections, or in this comment section of this video, we'll be getting comments like, but Amazon are not currently interacting with the fans. And you said earlier, yeah, Wheel on Time, I believe that's the name, is interacting with the fans and they're sharing information. And maybe I think the people that fans are worried about is that maybe you don't have to share information right now, but at least maybe interact with us a little bit. You maybe Happy Hobbit's Day back in October, Tolkien's birthday, I think it was like the 3rd. There's so many other little things, and we know we'll talk about later on that Amazon actually had to get forced with their Lord of the Rings on Prime account to tweet something. But what's your take on that? That the fan interaction was just pleasing them a bit?
well, I don't quite understand that. I don't understand the silence on that front. If I was in charge of the marketing, uh, I would be instructing the whoever, people running the social media accounts to have Lord of the Rings appendices opened, looking through the Tale of Years, and so like you said, when it's Christopher Tolkien's or his father's birthday, say on this day, happy so many birthday J.R.R. Tolkien. On the anniversary of one of their deaths, say on this day 50 years ago we lost a great storyteller, and so forth. I'd also include stuff and say March 5th. On March 5th, Frodo was stung by Shelob and captured by the orcs of Cirith Ungol, or stuff like that. Not every day, but big events. And then maybe on New Year's Day 2021, I would have said, this is what is known to have happened on year 2021 of the Second Age. Things like that. And then I would engage with the fan base. And when people ask questions, I just respond with kind of emojis. If they, if it's an intelligent question, I'd respond with emoji. I drop cryptic hints that are altogether meaningless because whoever's running this social media account would have no idea what's going on in the production anyway. I would just generally engage with the fan base a little bit more. I'd even sponsor read-alongs on the subreddit or on Twitter, But I guess at the same time, they don't want to reveal what exactly they can be pulling from, because that might give people an idea of the story. I mean, we've all assumed that, okay, they've got Lord of the Rings and the appendices, they have a separate rights agreement with the Tolkien estate, so maybe they've got unfinished tales, as we can see from the maps that they released 2 years ago, right? Wow, time flies. So I mean, I don't like the silence, but I'm not terribly bothered by it.
Yeah, and I think to summarize is that, of course, there are going to be fans who do want things straight away. I want a trailer now. I want this information X, Y, Z, and that is fine. But the thing that most fans want is just that little interaction, just that little thing on their Twitter. Maybe reply to that gif of Gandalf, I don't know, laughing while or holding up a Merry Pippin's ears in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think the first film, stuff like that. Maybe respond to those things, etc. As I believe, like 2 years ago when the maps came out, on the accounts, they were responding to comments, etc. But now on their Lord of the Rings on Prime account, when they did reply to Torn's message, they haven't responded with anyone in the comment section who replied to them, which is interesting. Maybe there's a change in person with the admin, but we'll just have to wait and see. But another interesting thing that you did talk about earlier, mentioned earlier in the video, is that you've seen this like as a blockbuster TV show, and for blockbuster movies, we know that marketing starts 1 year out or 1 year before the actual release date. But as we know so far, minus the last few days, but we still can't confirm anything if that's PR release even though it's really unlikely. If there's nothing really been done so far on the marketing side to actually market the show heavily, and you say it's normally 1 year out, so what does that mean for this show and the release date is potentially?
Well, let's see. We know that they completed filming on the first 2 episodes. and they've resumed production. Okay, great. So I think our latest speculation says there's going to be eight episodes in season 1. So that means they're a quarter done. I mean, then when that's done, that still has to be edited. It still has to be scored. You've got post-production on special effects. So I mean, all in all, I think we are probably looking at a 2022 release. Maybe they were originally shooting for 2021 and COVID messed that up, but that just still seems rather brief. I think it may have been 2022 all along.
But if post-production has, I believe that over the winter period, maybe, remember that little hiatus for a month and a half where they weren't doing anything, maybe the post-production happened for the first 2 episodes and maybe they're finalized and stored away. I know a lot of people have been thinking that maybe released, maybe the other 6 or 8 episodes are not done because the season might have 10 episodes, we're not sure, probably 8, but however many episodes except from episode 1 and 2, keep them away for probably 2022, maybe the first quarter of the next year. But the first 2 episodes, which we know might be done and maybe production is nearly finished, why not release it in maybe December time, November time this year? And maybe around December time would be smart because it would be 20 years since I know you personally don't really like too many things connected back to the movies, but marketing wise, 20 years since the Fellowship of the Ring was released in cinemas, I believe, and Lord of the Rings is normally, and The Hobbit is normally been released over the last 20 years around Christmas time, so people associate it with Christmas. So do you think it would be a good idea just to release the first 2 episodes maybe around December time and then wait a few months and release the rest? Because I know Amazon did actually do this with Carnival Row, I believe, or Row. So yeah.
I mean, it's something they could do that, and it kind of, we've done some internal speculation about the nature of the. You've heard the first 2 episodes referred to collectively as a pilot. Typically the first episode is the pilot. And we've kind of speculated. Okay, if these first 2 are pilots, and maybe it's a more contained storyline rather than leading directly into the rest of season 1, I would think it makes sense to release those a little bit separately, in which case the marketing timeline would look differently. But at the end of the day, release dates, I think, are going to be more subservient to the state of the product. So if the product isn't ready, that release date is going to be moot. And maybe they were originally shooting for that late 2021 release, but then COVID messed everything up.
That could be the case, but I know you referred to this again earlier about how you would do that little interaction with the show, but I know this is quite a hard question just to give it to even a person who is a marketer. How would you market the show? What things would you do? But just briefly, what are the main things if you were in charge of marketing for Amazon's show, Lord of the Rings show adaptation? What would you do? The main things.
Let's see. I mean, assuming that that we're keeping this the exact stories that we're telling a secret. I'd probably primarily engage with the fans on a local level, and then the next thing I would do is, this is kind of outside my depth. I'm focused more on the software side and product marketing, who our customers are. So this is a little outside my depth here, so I don't want to misspeak and be criticized by people that know far more about this. But let's see. So the synopsis is out of the bag. Okay, well, I would, and they've already confirmed that this is the synopsis. Their Twitter account has broken its 6-month silence. So, at this point, I would just start to engage. I would engage. Then once you've settled on a title of the show itself, I'd release that. And God help me, I hope it's not Lord of the Rings for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And then I'd start, reveal a poster, and then when a trailer is ready, drop that and start writing the hype. I mean, but this is assuming, they've got a set release date in stone. Well, actually, I'd say first let people know the release date, because then you can start having people. Then you can start ticking and start building that hype and anticipation outside the fan base. I would also kind of get ahead of the negative news. So when people say, when people were panicking about nudity, I'd honestly get out there and say, hey, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Granted, I'm never panicked about nudity. I think in particular context, it could be very useful to and even work within the morality that Tolkien uses in his book. But that's another question outside my pay grade.
Of course, there's so many interpretations of nudity and rumors in Tolkien's works. And just to wrap up, as we mentioned earlier, in the last, probably when this is out now, it would have been happened about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 1 week ago, that the synopsis was actually released exclusively by Torn the One Ring Net. And I know some people have been saying, oh, it's probably a really good stage PR, but of course, I've got reasons why. Well, I've got proof why it wasn't actually staged, and of course, I can't really give the details why. But from a marketing viewpoint, it's quite obvious because I saw the tweet in just half of the world is probably asleep when they tweeted that, first of all, which is a good idea. When they normally do the marketing, it's either for the UK time, it's either 8 o'clock or 2 o'clock. Normally 8 o'clock because most of Europe is still awake, and still America and all the western side of the world is around their midday time. But they released it at 1 o'clock in the morning for the UK. So what do you feel like about it? Because I think we're just a quick, oh no, this has come out, we have to do something quickly. What are your opinions?
I mean, if listeners know that, listeners, and I'm sure people who browse that subreddit know that I've often been very critical of the One Ring, but I have to throw it out because they got something that looked very juicy. They sat on it, they confirmed it, and once they verified that this was actually real, that's when they went public with it. And I lean on the side that this is not a leak, or excuse me, this is not a leak with air quotes. This is an actual leak. Because if I was going to reveal the synopsis, I would not leak it out. I would go to everyone in my PR network. That includes, that can range from anywhere from blogs to YouTubers to social media channels and various entertainment news, and share that with them and let them promote it. As you've already pointed out, Torn released this at 7 p.m. my local time, which I know was pretty late for you, most of Europe. So of course you guys missed all of that, and most of the U.S. was basically, kind of in chill mode at home. So yeah, this does not seem like a dedicated campaign, and and the fact that everyone else has been kind of slowly becoming aware of this. You started to see some other plugs. Some other mentions of this in real, I want to say, in real entertainment media. They're starting to pick up on the story now. When Torn first announced this, it even took, various Amazon marketing and PR channels a while to recognize this. And if this was a actual dedicated campaign, they would have all known about it ahead of time and been prepared to react. So yeah, I think this is real.
Yeah, and even just how they released it, because we know that it's a synopsis for the show, but if it was planned and staged, wouldn't wouldn't Northern Prime want to make a tweet showing the synopsis? They haven't even done that yet, which is surprising. I think, okay, it's released now, we might as well just put it out there, maybe put it on our banner for our Twitter account, but they still haven't even done that. It probably shows how private they still want to be and how out of the blue this announcement was.
Yeah, and which is still interesting because this synopsis doesn't really say anything. The most interesting aspect about it to me is, one, the fact that if you remove the references to Tolkien and Lindon, or is it Lindon, Sauron, it could read as generic fantasy. And then secondly, as I just, my inner Tolkien nut is kind of chuckling at describing Sauron as the greatest villain written by Tolkien, which is debatable.
It's debatable, but their probably general audience won't know who Melkor is, who Morgoth is. Maybe, I don't know, Thranduil233 on Twitter is replying saying, no, it's Melkor, it's Morgoth, it's obvious, but I don't know, someone called Jeff Lanyon or whatever his name is, someone random like that might not know it, but like, oh, someone from the Lord of the Rings movies, he's the greatest villain, or he's back again. And I think from that, it looked like Amazon was probably trying to tender towards the general public, which of course is probably good for marketing as well. But just any final thoughts before we wrap up, Penguin?
No. I look forward to seeing what questions and comments arise on the on when this is posted.
And maybe Amazon, if you are watching, or any of the PR people are watching, if you need a spare member, maybe, I don't know, for one of the continents, hit up Mr. Penguin. He'll do some great marketing for your show.
I've looked at Amazon's stock price, and I've come to the realization they can definitely afford me.
Maybe they might be able to afford you, but we'll just have to wait and see. But thank you, Mr. Penguin, for coming on and sharing your expertise today.
Thanks for having me.
And you're welcome for picking you up as well for a lot of this video, showing you in an excellent light. But thank you all at home for watching as well. I really appreciate it. Please leave in the comments below what your opinion on Amazon's marketing so far, or maybe what would you have done? Would you have interacted with fans? Would you have released maybe a trailer? Would you have released a release date? That sounds a bit funny, but release a release date. Just let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys for watching, and for me, Mr. Penguin, until the next video, my friends, goodbye.